You think you know her story, the glitter, the spotlight, the voice that could shake an arena. But the real story of Wynonna Judd begins long before the fame, long before the Grammys, long before the roar of sold-out crowds. It begins with a frightened 17-year-old girl in Ashland, Kentucky, who was pregnant, alone, and already being judged by a small town that never forgot anything. That girl was Naomi Judd, and on May 30th, 1964, she gave birth to a daughter named Christina Claire Simonella. The world would later know her as Wynonna Judd. Naomi had been abandoned by her boyfriend, Charles Jordan, during her pregnancy. She missed her high school graduation by just 2 weeks because she was in a hospital bed holding her newborn. The whispers in town were relentless. To survive the shame, she married Michael Simonella and allowed everyone to believe he was the baby's father. It was a decision made out of desperation, protection in the moment, but it planted a secret that would shake her daughter decades later. Wynonna grew up believing Michael was her biological father. The truth, that Charles Jordan had walked away before she was even born, stayed hidden for years. Her childhood was marked by instability. Naomi moved constantly for nursing jobs, drifting between Kentucky and California, chasing security that always seemed just out of reach. Money was scarce. If they didn't grow it or make it, they simply didn't have it. Home was never a fixed place. It was wherever they happened to land. Through all that uncertainty, one thing remained steady: music. Music didn't move. Music didn't leave. Music stayed. In 1979, when Wynonna was 15, Naomi moved the family, including Wynonna's younger half-sister, Ashley Judd, to Franklin, Tennessee, near Nashville. They were chasing something that felt impossible: country music success. Naomi legally changed her name from Diana to Naomi. Christina became Wynonna, inspired by Winona, Arizona, mentioned in the song Route 66. At night, mother and daughter performed in small venues around Nashville, hoping someone important might hear them. Then, in 1984, everything changed. Their single, Mama He's Crazy, climbed to #1 on the country charts on August 4, 1984, staying there for 14 weeks. It was the first time since 1953 that a female duo had reached #1. The duo became known as the Judds, and country music would never be the same. From 1983 to 1991, the Judds dominated the genre. 7 studio albums, 26 singles, 14 #1 hits, more than 11 million albums sold in the United States alone, 5 Grammy Awards, 9 consecutive CMA Vocal Duo of the Year awards. They weren't just popular, they reshaped country music history. Songs like Why Not Me, Rockin' with the Rhythm of the Rain, and Love Can Build a Bridge became anthems. But behind the harmonies and awards, something frightening was happening. In January 1989, at just 43 years old, Naomi Judd was diagnosed with chronic hepatitis C, likely contracted from a needle stick injury during her nursing career. At that time, there were few treatments and even fewer conversations about the disease. One doctor told her she only had 3 years to live. The virus had been silently attacking her liver for nearly 4 years. By October 1990, Naomi officially announced her retirement from performing. The farewell Love Can Build a Bridge tour in 1991 stretched across 124 dates and concluded at the Murphy Center in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Fans filled arenas knowing they were witnessing the end. The final show was televised. The atmosphere was heavy with both gratitude and grief. Wynonna was only 26 years old, watching the center of her world step away from the stage. But where one chapter closed, another opened. In 1992, Wynonna Judd launched her solo career. Her debut album shot straight to #1 on the Billboard Top Country Albums chart and climbed to #4 on the Billboard 200. It eventually sold over 5 million copies. 3 singles from the album reached #1, establishing her as a powerhouse in her own right. For the first time, she wasn't half of the Judds. She was simply Wynonna. Throughout the 1990s, she released successful albums, including Tell Me Why, Revelations, and The Other Side. Each project earned gold or platinum status. She became the most successful solo female country artist of that decade. Critics no longer compared her to her mother. She had carved out her own legacy. But fame has a way of magnifying personal struggles. On November 13, 2003, around 2:30 a.m., Wynonna was pulled over near Nashville's Music Row. She was driving 47 miles per hour in a 30-mile-per-hour zone. Her blood alcohol level measured 0.175%, more than double the legal limit. The arrest came just 1 week before her wedding to Dr. Roach. She later pleaded guilty, lost her license for a year, and completed 200 hours of community service. The shock didn't stop there. Weeks later, despite earning millions throughout her career, she discovered she was on the verge of bankruptcy. Her 525-acre farm in Tennessee was at risk. Years of overspending, private jets, and financial mismanagement had caught up to her. She entered treatment in January 2004, not for alcohol or drugs, but to confront her complicated relationship with food and money. She later spent 42 days at Shades of Hope in Texas, addressing emotional eating and financial behaviors rooted in childhood poverty. Her personal life continued to test her resilience. She married Arch Kelley III in 1996, and together they had 2 children, Elijah and Grace Pauline Kelley. The marriage ended in 1998. In November 2003, she married Dr. Roach, but in 2007 he was arrested and later sentenced to 10 years in prison for child sexual assault. She filed for divorce immediately. In 2012, she married drummer Cactus Moser, whom she had first met decades earlier. The marriage felt steady and grounding, but just 2 months after their wedding, on August 18, 2012, while riding motorcycles in the Black Hills of South Dakota, Moser crossed the center line on Highway 16 and collided head-on with a car. His left leg was severed instantly. Wynonna rushed to him, lying on the pavement, staring into his eyes, terrified he would close them forever. He survived, but his leg was amputated above the knee. Recovery was long and grueling. She canceled shows and stood beside him through surgeries, rehabilitation, and the painful process of adapting to a prosthetic leg. Their bond deepened. They often described their marriage as bulletproof, tested and strengthened by survival. But another heartbreak unfolded in public view. Her daughter, Grace Pauline Kelley, began facing legal troubles in 2015 at 19 years old, including arrests related to methamphetamine possession and probation violations across multiple states. Courtrooms replaced classrooms, headlines replaced privacy. Each arrest carried fresh pain. Then came April 30, 2022. Naomi Judd was found unresponsive in her home in Leiper's Fork, Tennessee. She had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound at 76 years old after years of battling depression, anxiety, and bipolar disorder. The timing was devastating. The very next day, the Judds were scheduled to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville. Instead of celebration, the ceremony became a moment of collective mourning. Wynonna stood on that stage, her voice trembling. Ashley spoke through tears. Artists and fans cried openly. The induction became both tribute and farewell. In interviews afterwards, Wynonna admitted she felt anger, guilt, and deep sorrow. Grief, she said, does not move in straight lines. It circles back again and again. But even before that loss, transformation had already begun. In 2010, she survived major stomach surgery that resulted in blood clots in her lungs. Later that same year, she survived a head-on car crash in Salt Lake City at 55 miles per hour. Doctors told her she was lucky to be alive. Those experiences forced her to reevaluate everything. She began making slow, intentional changes. Through brain state conditioning and therapy, she addressed emotional eating patterns. She cleared her home of junk food and started walking daily on her Tennessee property. Over 15 years, she lost 55 pounds and dropped 5 dress sizes. By 2024 and 2025, she began posting makeup-free videos on TikTok. No filters, no glam, just honesty. Fans praised her authenticity. At the People's Choice Country Awards, she said her true beauty secret was laughter. She was tired of being hard on herself. Her Back to Why tour in 2024 became a symbol of that evolution. It wasn't about looking younger, it was about being real. She embraced her wrinkles, her scars, her history. Because when you survive abandonment, illness, addiction,